back to the Meet Podcast with your host, Daniel Bryan. In today's episode, we are starting off the series called the Athlete in Me series, where we highlight athletes and coaches and what it means to be an athlete and how that's a part of what their me is. So we have a special guest with us today, Kristoni Barnes. Kristoni Barnes is a part of the track and field team at the University of Alabama. So without further ado, let's add it to the call. Welcome, Kristoni Barnes. How are you doing and how's life?
I'm doing well. I just got a track practice and weightlifting. So I'm doing well right now.
That's great. I'm happy that you accepted the invitation to come on my podcast. It really means a lot, especially me starting off my athlete series. Me being a former athlete, I love sports, all sports. So it was great to be able to identify you and have you on the call today.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.
No problem. So let's go dive into some of these questions. So the question was, what does it mean to be an athlete in your eyes?
Well, to me, being an athlete is just kind of operating in your gift of athleticism. So whichever sport there may be. To me, being an athlete, it's a gift and it's an honor. It's more than participating in fitness or sports. It has an extreme intent of pursuit. It provides a platform to influence, to be a leader, and to impact others.
That's great. You covered almost everything what an athlete is supposed to be. Like I said, it's a gift, it's an honor. And then it's also, like you said, a platform for where we can showcase our gift to fans and everywhere for everyone to see. So I know it's an amazing honor to be an athlete, and especially you being at such a high stage where you've won championships, you've won rings, you've won many honors, you hold records, even at North Carolina A&T. So you're the record holder. So I know it's a really big deal with you being an athlete and you take that serious. So that kind of moves me into my next question, asking you a little bit about your background. Knowing that you participate in track and field, I want you just to give the viewers a little insight on, how long you've been participating in athletics as a whole and kind of when did you get started?
Well, track is actually the last sport I tried and participated in. So it's kind of interesting that that's the sport that I end up choosing to be an athlete at the next level. But I started off playing basketball. So I've been playing basketball since I was 5 years old. That was probably my first love sport. I grew up in a basketball family. So my brother and my parents play basketball. I also played volleyball. My mom's a volleyball coach currently. She played volleyball in college also. So I played volleyball. That was the next sport that I tried. And lastly, I tried track. And I kind of got into that just they were already participating in track in the summer track leagues like USATF. And so really I just got into track just from being with my friends, just hanging out and just trying it with them, which was like 7th grade at Heritage Middle School is where I started track. So after doing it for a little bit, just having fun with my friends, they invited me into their summer track clubs. So I did junior striders my first year of summer track, and then I finished with Carolina Elite, both out of Raleigh, Wakefield, Wake Forest area. So I kind of initially I started running the 100, the 200, and the 400. I pretty much just did whatever my school asked me to. So that included the 100, 200, 4x4, 4x1. But currently my main event is 800. Which is my last tried event in track and field. So it is very ironic that the last tried sport and event is what I focus on currently. So yeah, and then I was recruited to North Carolina A&T for the 800. And that's where I ran cross country, the 800, and participated in the 4x4 team. And that's what I currently run here at the University of Alabama, is the 800. And the 4x4 were never necessary.
That's amazing. You're a jack of all trades. You can do it all. Even like you said, you start off at basketball, and now you're trying all different types of sport. That's one thing I wish I did while I was in high school. I kind of wish, other than football, that I tried different sports and stuff to see also some other gifts that I had. But I'm glad that you shared your stories on how you started and how you were open to all different sports. So now I want to go into a little bit about where you're at right now. And I know a lot of high school students want to say they want to be D1. They say they want to be on the where the big lights are, the big stage, where the 100,000 fans. They want that limelight. I want you to tell us a little bit about the D1 athlete schedule, the times, and how you excel in sports and school at the same time.
I will say it is definitely intense. I believe, though, I was kind of groomed for this, being that I did start sports at a young age. So basically, ever since I was able to begin schooling, I've been a student athlete. So I feel like my life pretty much prepared me for being a student athlete at the college level. The schedule can be, especially with track and field, at North Carolina A&T, I ran cross country, which starts in the summertime, and then indoor track begins in the winter, and then spring track is in the spring. Spring track is in the spring, obviously, outdoor track season. So it's pretty much year round, and when you get to like regionals and nationals, that competition goes all the way up until June. So it's basically a year-round schedule of training, whether that's in season or off season. So it's a lot to be committed to. When you decide to become one, it's like something you have to make a sincere decision about, weigh the pros and cons before deciding. And honestly, sometimes you don't really know all the pros and cons until you actually are a student athlete. So depending on what school you go to or what sport you are in, the scheduling can differ. But for me, when I was in North Carolina A&T, I typically had weights in the morning, then class early in the morning because we would have practice midday, usually at the warmest time of the day, whether that's between 1 and 3 o'clock, depending on the sunset. And then here at Alabama, I have practice in the weightlifting at the evening time. So I still practice between like 1 and 3, but then I lift weights in the evening. So pretty much my day, on average, my day is pretty much booked between like 11 and 5, 11 and 6, because that just entails class, weightlifting, going to the sports medicine training room to make sure you're recovering your body well from the previous day of practice, just staying on top of treatment to make sure you're ready for the next day of practice. You kind of have to have just like great time management to be able to study, do your homework, fitting in eating because eating is a must, staying hydrated throughout the day. Just making sure on time, just timeliness, time management is a big, big, big role in being a successful student athlete. Because I'm thinking about traveling. Just last week, we traveled to University of Florida, and we were gone from Wednesday to Sunday. So, obviously you're missing school those many days, and you have to be able to get ahead of your work, stay on top of your work, being able to time between practice, team meetings, and traveling. We don't always have access to Wi-Fi sometimes, maybe on the bus or if we take the plane. So you really just have to prepare and be adaptable, because you just never know. And you have to be willing to make a lot of sacrifices, honestly. You definitely can have a social life, but you definitely have to sacrifice some of your social life if you're committed to being a successful student and athlete.
Most definitely, I totally agree with all that you said, and that applies to life, like time management, everything that you pointed out. Even sacrifice. Like you said, sacrificing your social life. Those are all things that we have to just do in normal life, and then that's just amplified as being an athlete because now you have two things that you're trying to make the priority. You have school, and then you have your athletics, because the athletics is your brand. That's who you are. That's what you're working out as. And you're spending so much time in that. But also, with school, that's your academics. That's your financial investment. That's so much, on the plate of an athlete, and you close to perfect. You made it perfect where you're able to do both and excel in both, and you've won awards for both academics and athletics. And so I think a lot of people, athletes watching, can they can gain inspiration from you, someone that has done it on the biggest level, on the biggest stages, with the biggest lights. You were able to do it and excel in it and be great. So I'm glad that you went through that, and you even covered my next question when I wanted to talk about even like the importance of like the nutrition and the training, and you gave us that schedule. If you could just give us a little bit more about the nutrition and kind of the workouts and stuff that a track athlete has to go through.
Yes, definitely. So I would definitely say nutrition is a key player in this game of being a student athlete. I don't think it's talked about as much as it should be, and there's a lot of like facts and myths to it, but you can't afford to miss a meal. I don't think athletes really realize how many calories they burn between doing multiple workouts. Like you might have if you're a distance runner, you might also have like a morning run on top of your practice that afternoon, and then you have weights in the evening. So like you can't afford to not replenish your body and refuel it by skipping any meals. So certainly eating is very important, and obviously not eating stuff that's not very useful for your body. So really fueling your body with things it needs. Like don't be afraid of carbs. Food is not the enemy. I know that was something that I had believed at one point, that I should avoid carbs, but really carbs are there to help you recover. Um, Definitely eating lots of protein to build your muscles, help them sustain. I try to eat from every food category, and I have a really high metabolism, so I'm usually pretty hungry like every 3 hours, honestly. So for me, I definitely don't skip any meals because I do not want to be hangry, or I just really want to be able to have like all the fuel I need to give my best effort at practice every day. Because it's hard to do that when your body is on E. It's just like a car. Like it's challenging to drive it or to go if the car doesn't have any gas. So you have to definitely fuel your body. So I make breakfast every morning. I try to definitely get in breakfast and lunch before practice. So sometimes that requires me to actually wake up sooner than I have to, just so I can fit in breakfast and lunch before I go to practice. So I make breakfast every morning. If I'm pressed for time because something has happened, I will still make sure I eat, but I will eat something lighter so that it doesn't bother me or like, irritate my stomach before practice. So usually everybody is different though, that's for sure. But what works for me is probably like about 2 hours before practice is when I can have lunch. If anything is within 2 hours, I'll just make like a smoothie, some type of like more liquid form of a meal to sustain me through practice. But most people who know me know that I always have snacks. Like I always have snacks with me. I used to eat in every class. Like I'm always hungry, and I know how to prepare for for practice in the later hours, or even if it's not to prepare for practice, is to recover from the practice I already had. So I can't stress enough how much nutrition is important, because at one point I didn't realize how important it was until I started changing my eating habits. So I definitely do advise what works for you, because it does take time to figure out what works for your body, whether that's the times you can eat, what your body likes and does not like. And what things may make you ready for practice and what things may tire you before practice. So kind of just experimenting with yourself, like do that while you're practicing or in the off season, just trying out new things so that you know when it's time for competition what's a great eating schedule for you. And the second thing related to nutrition is hydration. Um, I wasn't truly, yes, exactly. I wasn't truly a believer or into hydrating like I should until I got here. The sportsman trainer, he gave me a great lesson on water and its benefits and how it works. And I'm very studious or intellectual, so sometimes the best way to get information to me is for me reading a book about it or watching a video. And so when he was reading the facts to me about what water does for the muscles, elongating them, the elasticity from drinking water, and how it can like minimize some of the soreness that you may feel from a workout if you continue to drink water, and the flexibility that you have. So I currently drink at least half my body weight every day, and not just of water, but also electrolytes. So I love Body Armor. I'm a fan of coconut water too. So I try to implement all of that: water, Body Armor, Propel, Gatorade. Just a nice combination. More water than um, the juice per se, but I'm definitely needing both because you don't want to cramp up. And it's getting hotter and hotter outside,
Oh yeah.
especially here in Alabama. Um, so those are probably the main two things about training. I mean, about nutrition is equally as important is sleep. Now, this was something I really had to work on because I'm a night owl. Um, I remember just staying up all types of hours, completing papers and assignments,
Yeah.
and trying to go to practice off 3 hours of sleep. And that's just not nice to your body. Your body wants to be well rested, at least 6 hours, give yourself optimal chance for a great workout, a great practice. So definitely sleeping as well. Sleeping and recovery, I think, are other things that aren't talked about as much that are just equally important as eating well and having the right training. I think it's a matter of balancing them all out: eating right, hydrating, and resting. And then, of course, you have to train. You have to prepare your body for competition. So, of course, training varies per coach, per athlete, per event or per sport that you participate in. Um, but obviously, for track, all you really can do is run to prepare for it. And of course, you can incorporate some other things like plyometrics, jump roping, different things like that, and you do stuff in the weight room. But when it comes to simulating your competition, you have to run. So for me, I'm 800 runner, and there are different types of 800 runners. There are like 815 runners, 1500-meter runners, which are like the longer distance, who are kind of more strength based, versus some of the 800, 400 runners who are more sprint based. And I'm kind of a hybrid, right in the middle. So like I do have to incorporate a lot of sprint work, but I also have to make sure I get in some longer distance things. I think something that is important for any event really is to do a little bit of over distance of your event, so that obviously when it's time to run your event, it's a little bit easier because you kind of trained over that distance. So I think that's important, just having a nice balance that fits your running style or your running type. And I think every individual is different. So I think that's what's the beauty of having training partners. Because obviously maybe an 8-4 person is more sprint oriented, so they might get out faster. But then your 815 partner is more strength based and they can finish better. So if you guys can work on each other's strengths and weaknesses, I think that's a great way to make one another better or yourself better. Um,
That's
so
that
yeah, it's just
yeah, that's amazing. Like I said, I was writing some notes down, and I'm glad that you were able to transition between the nutrition and then into the training, and then how to maximize your training by having those different partners. You talked about with you being a hybrid runner and knowing your running style and then having those partners with you. So I think that's very important for all athletes, not just track and field, but for all sports, knowing your style, right? Like for me, when I played football, I had to know what type of defensive lineman am I. I'm not a speed rusher. I'm not, a finesse one. I'm usually like a power. So what type of moves would I use? I'll probably use like bull rush and things like that. So knowing your style, what will enable you to be able to maximize your potential and yeah, your performance. So I think that's very important. Like that you talked about knowing your style, your running style for track and field. Also, when you went down your nutrition, food, water, sleep, and training were your four staples. Right there, knowing the food that you put in, your body is your temple, so you have to uphold that. So putting the correct amount of food, the right types of food to make sure you get all your vitamins and your minerals, because our body is comprised of mostly minerals, so that's important not to forget those. Water, you talked about how you were doing half of your body weight in ounces. Like I said, I've been trying to get that 128 ounces, that gallon in each day. So make sure we're getting that water in, because water is probably the number one body lubricant, like oil is for a car. So that's our lubricant for our body. So make sure we're drinking our water. Sleep, make sure we get those Z's in. Especially those college students can't be staying up all night. Having too good of a time. Make sure we get some rest.
see, that's where time management comes in. You gotta be able to time it right so you can still get the sleep in.
Exactly. Time management. Gotta have that. If you're going to do that, make sure you have that time management so you can give your body optimal rest. And think of sleep as your time to repair, right? That's the time for your body
Exactly.
to repair itself. Yeah. So even
Exactly.
and then,
That's
yeah,
yeah, that's like when your muscles are finally like recovering activity that you had that day, just your body in general, like your heart rate, everything is adjusting to that day you've had. And just sleeping is just like nothing but love to the body once
sure
it's
is.
had such an active day.
Yep. And then you went into training, and that's the time where we got to put in the work. We can do all those other things. We can eat the right food, we can drink the amount of water, we can sleep. But if it's not time, we don't punch our clock in. It's time to do weights. If it's not time, if we're not on that line by the time the coach says we're supposed to be on, if we haven't completed stretches, dynamic stretching and stuff like that. So we have to be able to put in the training and the time so we can maximize our performance. So
Yeah.
now I want to go into a little bit. Like I said, I'm talking to a record holder, guys. I'm not talking to another athlete. But when we did the when I did some pre-recording questions and stuff like that, and some questionnaire stuff, talking Miss Kristoni Barnes, some of the stuff she was putting on her document. She said, "Oh yeah, I'm the record holder." And I said, "Okay." And then looking at some of her pictures, she showed me the rings and everything and all the medals and stuff. So guys, I'm talking to a record holder, a champion, um, someone that's playing at the highest level. And so now I want to pick your brain a little bit about some advice you could give some of high school athletes, not just for
Yeah.
track and field, but for any sport. How can we maximize our ability at that next level, college?
Yeah, so definitely all the things I did say as far as nutrition and training. Um, I think what is like very important it will be to try to learn early time management and get that down pat. That will be a lifesaver for when you advance, even if it's not in sports, just in life in general. Time management will make your life a lot easier in general, and it will definitely translate into being a successful student athlete. But probably quite a few. Um, be coachable. Make sure that you're able to receive criticism and not to take things personally. Because hopefully, the coaches that you're under or with, they want you to succeed as much as you want to succeed as well. So they should be giving you advice to make you better, um, just for like your own sake, and for them as well. So definitely make yourself coachable, be take in consideration the advice they give you. Um, I would definitely say set goals. I think that's probably something mostly all athletes, true athletes do. They set goals, they make them, and then that's what they come to practice for every day to work towards those goals, make themselves better, so that they can achieve those goals. Um, Stay optimistic. One thing about track and field is you have to take in the small wins sometimes, and this is probably in any sport, but I can definitely speak to track and field. Like you definitely have to have a positive outlook your performances. So you may not have, I may have like this past weekend, I did not run a time that I wanted, but I executed my race better than I had the weekend before. So for me, that was a small win. Um, I did better on my first 200 than I did the weekend before that. So that was a small win for me too. So it was just a lot of small things that really add up to a big win for me. And I think it'll be translatable in my races later. So you really have to have a positive outlook. You have to do is that I have like a 24-hour rule for myself. So if I have a bad performance, I can dwell on it for 24 hours at max. After 24 hours, it is time to get rid of the negativity, the dwelling, the sadness about how I performed, and start thinking about the positives and just be like realistic. Okay, what did I do that I don't want to do next time? Or did I not do that I should do next time? And it's just take and be positive and move forward. I think that is something that you kind of have to have as a person, just in general, to be successful, is to be able to kind of manage the good with the bad and then seeing what you do with it, you know. So those are some really some of my best advice. I would definitely say feed yourself. I guess overall really is invest in yourself and feed yourself. So whether that's your body, nutrition, water, and feeding your mind. So make sure you are encouraging yourself. No self-doubting. You know, sports, especially as a student athlete, I set the bar high for myself in academics and athletics. So when I don't reach that bar per se at that very moment, sometimes it can be discouraging. But I have to look at the big picture, and that just happened in that moment. That is not that bad race, bad grade or rejection. It doesn't define me. It is not who I am. It's just something that I choose to see as a lesson. And then what I learned from those mistakes, or I don't really like to call them failures, but from those happenings, just taking what I learned and translating it, or transforming it into something beneficial. So I think adaptability is go and just maximize your ability. And then really holding yourself accountable. Okay, so like be realistic with yourself. If you know you have not been putting in the effort, you've been lazy, you know you haven't been sleeping, you haven't been eating right, you know, evaluate yourself. Self-evaluation is a beautiful thing. And no judgment whatsoever. It's you just evaluating what you have done, and
Yeah.
to be realistic with ourselves. And I think that that helps a lot. So looking at what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and then enhancing your strengths, and then every day work on your weaknesses also. So I think
That, yeah. That's
learning about yourself will help you
yeah, you filled my notepad up. Like I said, and guys, you might see me writing while they're talking. Is because, like I said, I'm a current student at North Carolina A&T State University. So, um, I'm also a student. So just because I'm the owner of this business and I'm the podcast host, I'm never turning my ear to listen or to learn. So that's why I write down all these notes that she talked about, because these are life skills right here. Coachable, learning to accept the small wins, accountability, losses don't define you, all the 24 hours rule. Like, all of that is great and so powerful, not only in your athletics but in life. Like, look,